We good? All right, wonderful. So I'm going to show you all kind of the next few steps so that way you can sort of just gallop onward. And again, you can kind of see where we're heading. Basically, this is it except for just a final beautiful black vignette spray. Like again, if you look at the elevation, figure out which way is your bottom and which way is your top. For me, so this is actually my bottom. You can see where my highlights sit because the bottom is where you're gonna do, and around the sides we're gonna do kind of a nice little like black spray. It'll be overall, but it'll be especially what we call the vignette. Just kind of brings everything together. It's real nice, but this is basically where we're heading. This is our final step. So I'm gonna show you all like the next 3 steps today, and then on Thursday it's just basically, you know, kind of a final 2 thing in your spray and then you're good. So while there are a number of steps, they are all pretty short and they all go pretty fast. So I know that everyone in here can do it. So this next step, kind of another one of our favorite, harken back, we're gonna do a little bit, kind of another sponge spatter. And what we're trying to do is trying to get that like darkness in the grout and also trying to pull some of these bricks, give them a little bit more dimension. So you're gonna start, you don't even need that much. And again, you don't want all the bricks to go dark. We want some variation. So just kind of go in, and you can leave some drops. Again, refer to the elevation. You'll see there's a lot of spots where there's actually some just dark splotches of it's what gives the brick that nice texture. But you go through, and again, just leave it very textury and really get it in the grout. That's where we want our darkest darks to be. But yeah, just do a little drop, and you know, leave some bricks can be a bit darker. Again, if you know, like, so down here, I know that's my bottom, so that's gonna be the darkest area. So up here up top, I might pull up a bit more of this. But yeah, you basically go, you just kind of do and even it can be just like a little, just even a little bit like this is fine, because as you pull it up, you can kind of get it into the grout. Use it to shape all the bricks to a point. But like for this one, I want to leave it a little bit lighter. We want some of that variation. We don't want anything to get too one note at any point. So, and then what you do is kind of after you've done all that little sponge spatter, I like to come back through with my dark sponge and I will re-wet. I would say have a cup of water. Oh, that's cold. Have a cup of water and have one that's a little more of a water sponge. And then I like to just sort of get into areas in the grout and then pull it back from the brick. So I'll just, because again, you look at the elevation, I would even say the grout's even like a tiny bit dark in that elevation. As I was working, I'm like, I don't like it quite that dark. I like a little bit more give and pull, and we'll just pretend I'm the designer and I told you that as a note as you were working. So basically, I just come back through, give the grout a little bit more variation, a little bit more darkness. You can see already just how much that pushes and pulls that. So that's the next step. Comments, questions, thoughts that are perfect. Great. Okay, so next, please just close. Or don't, I don't care. Okay, I don't feel this. So, this is gonna go a little weird because I don't have a clean can of water, but that's okay. So the next step is what, oh shoot, could someone grab me a 2-inch chip brush real fast? One thing I forgot to bring here. All right, so next technique, thank you. Now, usually, I'm gonna show you something that's called dry brush. Usually with a dry brush, it's a great way to distress and like pull. You'll often see it on wood, like when it looks like you want the wood to like lighten or fade out, like that's often where it's used. What we're doing is kind of a bastardized version, because I do want, in the elevation, there's kind of this nice streakiness, and again, you can see kind of where we're going. Is it's a little bit streaky, but it still has some softness. So you're gonna get some color on your brush, and I'm dabbing off my apron. You can dab it off in. And the thing is, dry brush is exactly like what it sounds. You want your brush pretty dry. We want to get that pull and those streaks. So again, pick and choose. Don't go all over the whole thing. Like, again, you can leave some bricks completely without it, but usually you want to go in, just pull a little bit of a dry brush through, and then we're actually going to take the sponge and almost more of a wipe than our usual like overall around. You kind of want to follow the directionality and give it a little bit of streakiness and kind of pull it back like that. So we still get a little bit of this brush because basically what we're trying to make it look like is that there were layers of paint and that there was different things going on. You can see we're gonna build up to the blocking. But this way, again, you kind of have this other nice variation in texture. And again, there's some where you can get a little bit heavier. Again, just kind of pull that through. And again, this color will stretch. So stretch it to the max. You don't need a lot of it. Again, you can kind of pull it through the brick, push it back. You know, get a little fun, get a little spicy. Again, you can always, like say I do, I'm like, I hate that, you can always go through in the sponge and pull it off. Yes?
Do we have to follow the elevation to figure out where you're adding those? Or
It will help you if you do. Like I'm doing this right now, and I've got my elevation over here and I'm looking at, again, this is another reason to orient, that's, you know, the what's your bottom, what's your top. If you're not religious to it, that's all right. But it is gonna help you as you're going through, because sometimes when you're trying to make your own decisions, you'll find that you get like 3/4 of the way through and all your bricks are pink. And you're like, Whereas like with the elevation, at least you can get the distribution. Okay. That's key, is looking at like how it's distributed across. So yeah, that's kind of our next step. Again, I think I'm gonna leave this one alone. Just a bit of touch in here. And again, what do I always say? You can always come back and add more. It's a little bit harder to take it away. Okay, so that's your dry brush step. Comments, thoughts? Also, 2-inch brush, it's your best friend. Very good, okay. On this one here. All right, next step, probably one of my favorite things, because it is the best quick and dirty way to make something look distressed and like it's got a little paint on it, and it takes almost no effort whatsoever. And that is called blocking. So you can see how it turns out. Like it's super, like again, it looks like there's pulled paint off of those bricks. And again, this works on anything. Like if you ever want to do like a sign that's distressed or whatever, do it up to the full way and just block the snot out of it, and it's like perfect. So again, you don't need much. And I also have a little, I do have more craft paper downstairs if you want to use that. You can also use boards because it's helpful to kind of clean off your block. I also have a bunch of these guys. So just truly get some painting on your block, kind of tap it off. And again, I'm gonna look at my elevation. I'm gonna do this upside down. So weird. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do this guy. So it really is just come through and let your block just kind of make, and you can either do just like tapping your block, or you can do, I kind of like to do a little bit of a drag because that's how like paint sort of tends to peel up. And again, you don't have to do it where there's a lot. You can need, and again, some bricks don't need any. Like you don't have to block every single one. Some will just have a little bit, and some will be heavier like that. And again, you can change it up, you know, try a different block. I'll bring up the ones we have. There are some that are made out of I mix these up, Meso. I'm a little concerned those might be a little too absorbent, so I would say play with those and see, but don't, maybe stick more to the ones that are actually made of wood. But again, just kind of come through and just put little bits here and there, reload your block, and give some variation to the bricks. Okay? Make sense? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, perfect. So that is the demo. I mean, next step after that, if you get really invested and excited, as you can see, is drop shadow and highlight. Fairly self-explanatory. I mean, again, I can do a demo on Thursday, but it's just I grabbed a lining stick, thin down your black, and I'm even gonna make this white even a tiny bit thinner. Key to a highlight and shadow. Drop shadows like these. Same sides for everything. So my black, my shadow's always on my bottom, and that's your left. Okay? Always bottom left. Same thing, highlight. Highlight is the other two sides. Okay? So that's the only place, and that's why using the lining stick, even though I know they're a little warbly, this is where it can help you, because you can just lay it down and you're like, okay, now I know it's just across the bottom of every brick. And you don't have to guess and like pull out each one. Okay, so you water it down pretty close to a wash, and you're gonna use your purdies. And the goal is to drag along so it's mostly the tip. because once it has the, and even like loading it up with a little bit more paint is actually better, and trying to get it as a consistent, smooth line.
So that's different from like the marble where we wanted it kind of jagged.
Correct. Like the marble had more of a veining. This is truly as if, you know, like if you step back up there or you step away, like this would be the thing that kind of makes the brick look a little more dimensional. I mean, again, it's a tiny bit hokey, you know, it's very old school, very painterly, but again, you think most brick is usually on like a wall,
And it's like,
all the way in the back, and you can imagine if we left them just like this, they're all gonna settle back, but once you drop in that beautiful, sexy highlight and shadow, it's like, whoa, it's brick, it's beautiful. So, at least that's what we tell ourselves, because that's how light works.
yes.
Okay, so I think we're good.